live button. And so let's wait for the stream to fire up all across the fruited plain of the internet before we jump into the meat and potatoes of the day. We got to make sure we're connected on the YouTubes, on the Rumble, on the Twitter. Of course, we already started over on the locals right over here. But now it's time to make sure that the tubes are connected so that we can go ahead and get started. And it looks like they are. That's tremendous news. Well, so let's do it already, shall we? Hello, my friends, and welcome back to yet another episode of Watching the Watchers Live. My name is Robert Gouveia. I am a criminal defense attorney at the R&R Law Group located in the always beautiful and sunny Scottsdale, Arizona. And today, my friends, we are talking about classified documents. But they're not in possession of Donald Trump. No. They're not down there at Mar-a-Lago. No, they are in a closet in some crap, charitable organization somewhere in Joe Biden's possession when he was vice president. Classified documents in the vice president's possession. And oh my goodness, we know what a catastrophe this was when Donald Trump was the person who was in possession of his classified documents. But now the tables have turned and we have got a lot to unpack today. As you can see, we've got 3 full segments. We're going to get into 3 different portions of this one story. First, we're going to take a look at the background. CBS broke the exclusive, and honestly, I'm kind of surprised and a little bit shocked that this was actually revealed. Typically I sort of figure these stories are like swept under the rug. Well, they were up until recently. We didn't hear about this. They knew about this before the midterm elections, but they didn't tell us about it until now. So CBS News breaks the story. We'll go through that in detail. We have a preview from them. We've got several different clips that have been floating around. We're asking ourselves, if they can prosecute Trump, if they can make, big deal about this whole thing, what's the standard for Joe Biden? Can they turn around and prosecute him? And one of the things we talked a lot about as it pertained to Trump was about intent and whether Trump had the intent to do these things and really whether intent mattered at all, or whether this was more like a strict liability crime where just being in possession of the documents alone, regardless of intent, would be enough to bring charges against somebody. And so we have one clip of Joe Biden admitting that he has no access after he leaves, as he's leaves the vice presidential office. He's got no access after he leaves. And so he sort of admits that. So we see, oh, well, then why did you have the documents if you didn't have any access? We also have some links to Ukraine. Some of the documents apparently may have been intelligence briefings connected to this ongoing war. CNN is really having a difficult time with this. You know that they were hyperventilators on the Trump Mar-a-Lago saga. And so now they're having to sort of compare and contrast these two cases. If Trump's possession of classified documents was almost the end of America, what is Biden's possession of classified documents? Is it also the end of America? We don't know. But they are going to go through that. And they brought on this former prosecutor who turned into a defense attorney on to explain this. We'll listen to her as well as CNN tries to piece together. They sort of have to reconcile these two worlds, these two crashing worlds, where a person in possession of classified documents isn't in fact the end of America. So we'll go through all of that in the first segment. Then that's the background. Then we'll take a look and see what the Republicans have to say about this, because boy, oh boy, it's like Christmas in January. What a great way to start a new Congress with a big bowl of meatballs delivered right in front of your mouth. They are going to eat it and eat it deliciously quickly. You can see Marjorie Taylor Greene, that's MTG. MTG says that Joe Biden took classified documents, saying he may have even stolen these documents. All right. He's not a former president. Okay. Trump was a former president. He had a foundation for being in possession of these things. VP Joe did not. So we'll go through her tweet. Tons of Republicans are unpacking this. We've got impeachment claims from Marjorie Taylor Greene. James Comer is saying, what is the deal with these double standards? Scalise saying the same thing. The media is not asking, similar questions when they were raiding Trump's residence. Byron Donalds, a gentleman who was running almost to become our next speaker. If, Kevin McCarthy flamed out, he was nominated. We also have Andy Biggs, shout out to Arizona. And of course, reaction from Donald Trump because, well, he was the subject of the raid on his residence and he's got some stuff to say about this. So we'll go through the reaction from all of the Republicans. And then in our final segment, we'll take a look at what the Democrats have to say. They brought out this guy, Pete Aguilar. Remember him from the J6 Select Committee? they brought him out to answer questions about this, and he had a difficult time. And I can understand, sometimes it's hard to answer questions and you get a little bit tongue-tied. But he was going through it today. He had a difficult time. They said, this seems like it's kind of a big deal because you guys were vomiting yourselves about Donald Trump when he was the subject of this. What's your position now? And he says, up. We'll go through that. CNN and MSNBC and others, there's some serious cope going on as they try to explain this away, reconcile these two crashing worlds. MSNBC comes out and she spends a good 3 to 4 minutes explaining why this is so different, why Joe Biden's innocent, but Trump is still a total monster. We got Joe Biden. He's asked about this at 2 separate settings. You see, one, he's sitting there with that little dictator, Justin Trudeau, and he is asked about this from the media, doesn't answer any questions. Similarly, he's seated there with basically, a bunch of his cabinet. You've got Secretary of State Merrick Garland, you've got DHS, Mayorkas, DOJ, and all of them. And Joe Biden is also asked about this with no comment. So we'll go through that reaction from CNN. One of them says that this basically exonerates Trump. Trump's basically free and clear now because it's a major double standard if they decide to prosecute him, but not prosecute Biden. We'll see. We'll break that down. And then we've got The View. Of course, they are always commenting on a bunch of things. So we've got a lot to get to today. That is the quick summation of the show. 3 segments. We're going to get through all of it. We know Tuesdays are a little bit shorter shows because we've got an event right after the program that I have to get to. And so we are going to get into it, my friends. But if you want to be a part of the show, our community is over at watchingthewatchers.locals.com. We have an amazing community over there chatting away. I see JC the Music Man, Aggie Martin. We got Uncle Shane's over there. John McGarvey. Georgia Peaches is in the house. Jay Cutbirth. And a lot of other commenters over there. We have an awesome community. And come and join us. We'll stick around for an after party, time permitting. Also, don't forget to check out our sponsors over at 4patriots.com, where you can get survival gear and all sorts of amazing survival food and all sorts of amazing survival things at 4patriots.com. Use code Robert to get 10% off everything in the store on your first purchase. And also check out our friends over at Goldco. You can go to Robert Likes Gold, protect your retirement savings with gold and silver at robertlikesgold.com. And of course, check out our law firm. If you happen to know anybody in the state of Arizona charged with crimes, what we do is help good people find safety, clarity, and hope. We offer free case evaluations online at rrlawaz.com. Thank you for supporting everybody who supports our work here. All right, so let's get right into the program, my friends, and jump right into it. Joe Biden took confidential documents, and we know that anytime that happens in America, the country is probably going to be doomed unless there are swift repercussions, unless the entire Justice Department reorients itself to quash this catastrophe. That's what happened when Donald Trump allegedly took these documents and the FBI raided his home in Mar-a-Lago. But now it turns out Joe Biden had something very similar going on in a closet in one of his charitable so-called organizations. We have an exclusive here from CBS, which we will get to, but there's a lot more to unpack because we're going to learn about the Biden Center, the Penn Biden Center for so-called diplomacy and global engagement, and learn what that entire organization is about, including looking inside of it, right? Walking around inside. Somebody went outside and filmed it. We know more about what they're purportedly doing. And then we're going to learn about this individual who was appointed to sort of investigate this document situation. The guy's name is John Lausch. And so we'll hear from him in a minute. But then we'll go over to CNN and we'll sort of compare and contrast Joe Biden's statements on this, because Joe said that when Trump had these confidential documents, it was the end of the world. We're going to see how CNN is dealing with this now that they know that Joe Biden did pretty much the same thing. So let's start off with some background over from CBS, because they are the ones that sort of broke this story, at least as far as I know. There's a lot of people reporting on it, but CBS News reports as follows. They tell us a U.S. attorney is reviewing documents marked classified from Joe Biden's vice presidency found at Biden's think tank. Which, if this was Trump, right, that headline would be a lot different. Probably wouldn't be like found at, like passive language, like they just found them. Oh, with Trump, it was like Trump stole them. Trump took them. Trump ripped them out of the White House, put them on moving boxes so haphazardly. and wheeled them into the front of Mar-a-Lago, where there were a bunch of tourists over there. But here, right, they just found them, at Biden's think tank. All right. And the first, little bit here, we're going to see how they justify this. So as we go throughout the show today, the theme that we'll see is this attempt to sort of win both sides of the argument. Win by saying Donald Trump, what he did was egregious and criminal and deserves prosecution, versus what Joe Biden did is innocent and he's a good person and he should be given the benefit of the doubt. So we're going to see them trying to split this, both ways. And we'll just follow that pattern along through basically the entire day. Attorney General Merrick Garland, it's reported, has assigned the U.S. attorney in Chicago to review documents. We're going to learn more about him. His name is John Lausch, that were marked classified, that were found at the Penn Biden Center for Diplomacy and Global Engagement in Washington. Two sources with knowledge told at CBS News. The roughly 10 documents or so are from Biden's vice presidential office at the center, the sources said. CBS News learned about this, that the FBI is also involved in the inquiry. My goodness, wow. Now, the material was identified by personal attorneys for Joe Biden. That took place on November 2nd. Curious, was there something else going on early November that was very important, that maybe if this had been disclosed to America may have been impactful in certain things throughout the world? Yeah, the midterm elections. They knew about it on November 2nd. We're just learning out about it now. Convenient. Just before the midterms, Richard Sauber, special counsel to Joe, confirmed all of this. The documents were discovered when Biden's personal attorneys were, quote, packing files housed in a locked closet to prepare to vacate the office space at the Penn Biden Center in D.C. Well, I remember when Trump said that there was a locked closet, that wasn't good enough, and that was totally inappropriate for nuclear secrets and things, right? Sauber said in a statement when he provided that to CBS, the documents were contained in a folder that was in a box with other unclassified papers, which is what we were told terrorists do, who are going to be selling classified materials to the Saudis, to the Chinese, and so on, probably to the Russians. The sources revealed neither what the documents contained nor their level of classification. A source familiar with the matter told them they did not contain nuclear secrets. Whew, well, that's good. So Sauber also said that on the same day the material was discovered, November 2nd, the White House counsel's office notified the National Archives, which took possession of the materials the following morning, right? And this is going to be another theme. The distinguishing feature here between what Trump did and what Biden did, they're going to say, is obstruction, right? So as we go through this, remember, we spent a ton of time on this when Trump had his residence raided, but there were several different sort of potential avenues of prosecution. One of them was just being in possession of the documents alone was problematic. Just the mere fact that you have national defense information in your physical possession, even Bill Barr and many others said that was sufficient to lead to prosecution, to criminal prosecution. But there was another element of this that involved obstruction. Remember, there's a whole additional purview. One of the charges was about obstruction. And they were saying that Trump's lawyers, Trump's team, people were confirming in writing that the chain of custody had been completed, and they avowed that, no, we don't actually have any additional documents. We've turned everything over. And they're saying, oh, but you didn't. So you lied. Therefore, you obstructed. Right. So that is a pretty, I think, interesting distinguishing factor here. Biden's people and the media and everybody's going to say, no. Trump should still be prosecuted for obstruction, but everything else, maybe not. Okay, so like if you see the DOJ, my prediction, if you see the DOJ come out and indict Trump, but not indict Biden, it's going to be on this issue. They'll indict Trump on obstruction, but not the possession charges, and they'll dismiss anything against Biden on the basis that he was cooperative. And they're trying to lay that foundation here right now. Immediately, they took possession of the materials the following morning. Lawyers rummaging through some files. He says, oh, crap, this is Hunter Biden's Ukraine invoice. Okay. Got to tell the National Archives. Calls the National Archives right away and transfers all the documents back in. He's like, we better cover this thing up. Don't let this spiral out of control. And that's cooperation. Therefore, they say Biden should get the benefit of the doubt. As the lawyers rummaging through these documents, the discovery of these documents was made by Biden's attorneys. The documents were not the subject of any other previous request or inquiry by the archives, which is interesting. Why were they so up in Trump's rear end but they're not so concerned about, I guess, just, confidential top secret national documents just floating around the universe wherever they may happen to be. They really need Trump's libraries books back, right? Trump had those documents. They better get those back or else. But Biden, vice president, is just like, how did he get those documents? How did they end up there? Did he check the library book out? Did the National Archives even know about this, that they were out? Like, okay, it's nice that the documents were not the subject of any previous request. You see how convenient that is? Well, they asked Trump for his documents over and over, right? They repeatedly demanded it. Okay, but did they even know that Joe Biden took these classified documents? Maybe that's why there weren't any requests there, because they didn't even know they were gone. Did he steal them? Since that discovery, the president's personal attorneys have cooperated with the archives and the DOJ in the process, right? That distinguishes it from Trump. Trump was obstructing, Joe Biden wasn't. And Trump was denying requests, and the National Archives never even asked for Joe's. Maybe because they didn't know they existed. A source familiar with the matter said that representatives from the National Archives then notified the DOJ. So Attorney General Garland then assigned U.S. Attorney for the Northern District of Illinois, John Lausch, who we're going to learn a lot more about in a minute, to find out how the material marked classified ended up at the center. We're going to learn. What was the chain of custody? Did Joe Biden shove them in his pants as he was exiting the White House? The review is considered a preliminary step, and the Attorney General will then determine whether further investigation is necessary, including appointing a special counsel. Lausch was nominated to be U.S. Attorney by former President Trump. He's only one of the two current Trump-era attorneys still serving. Other is David Weiss, who's leading an investigation into the president's son, Hunter. Right? And so they're constantly saying, well, these are Trump people. These are Trump people. So they're not conflicted, even though many so-called Trump appointees, in my humble opinion, have been extremely conflicted. That's never stopped them before. It says Lausch recently briefed the Attorney General, will eventually submit a final report. The review is expected to conclude soon. The Penn Biden Center is a think tank about a mile away from the White House. It's affiliated with the University of Pennsylvania. And of course, we know all about the Presidential Records Act, and we've talked about Trump's excuses as well. Biden learned about the presence of the documents when his lawyer reported them to the White House. Lausch's review will examine how the documents got there. Pennsylvania did not respond to a comment. National Archives also did not respond. Attorneys assigned to oversee Biden's vice presidential records, named Robert Lenhard, James Garland, and Dana Remus, also did not reply. Justice Department, FBI also did not reply. ODNI did not reply. Former President Trump replied, we'll get there. And Kevin McCarthy called recovery of the documents with classified markings very concerning, says Kevin McCarthy. Absolutely it is. I'm shocked and appalled. I think this is a catastrophe on it must be addressed. So he's added that he's had these classified documents, and what has he said about other presidents with classified documents? Great question there, Kev. We've got clips from James Comer and others. Slippery Jamie Raskin said that what they have done, unlike Trump, is appear to have taken immediate and proper action, which is to notify the National Archives. All of this after the FBI literally raided Trump's residence. Now, a lot of money went over here. Biden got paid almost $1 million for speeches at this center because these are basically just gigantic money laundering operations where, they're out there working for global diplomacy for big, big money. Okay, so that is the story over from CBS. Now, CBS gave us a little bit of a preview of the Penn Biden Center. Here's what it looks like from the outside for those of you who are not familiar with this location. The Penn Biden Center.
3 sources tell CBS News the classified documents were discovered in this building about a mile from the White House at the offices of the Penn Biden Center, a foreign policy research institute set up after President Biden left the vice presidency. According to a source familiar with the matter, the classified documents are small in number.
Small in number? Relative to what? Relative to who? Oh, yeah, Trump, the one that's really the real criminal.
And were found in November in a box among unclassified material.
That's
Sources
what
would
Trump
not
did.
characterize how sensitive the documents are.
Wow.
Responding to requests from CBS News, the White House counsel said that on November 2nd of last year, before the midterm elections,
Weird.
lawyers for President Biden were cleaning out office space at the center. When they discovered the documents marked classified in a locked closet, they stopped the work and contacted the White House. White House lawyers then reached out to the National Archives, which is...
Got it. We've got all of that in the article, and you can see a little bit of the photography outside of the Penn Biden Center. This is what it looks inside. So if you were to go over there and sort of visit it around, this actually came over from this fella. His name is Scott Thuman. Scott Thuman said, "No, this is where President Biden's team found potentially classified documents in private possession." Says the GOP is now demanding an investigation, right? Because if Trump's going to get investigated, why would they not also investigate Biden for the same thing? This is inside at Scott Thuman on Twitter. He's walking us through the Penn Biden Center. You can see the nice sign on the wall. It looks like a big, giant office space. Looks like beautiful offices, really. Huge entrance, massive conference room. Nobody's inside. Nobody's working. It's just a big empty building because all that you really need the building for is the address so that you can just wire the funds coming from the Chinese bank accounts into Hunter's laptop. So all of that continues, and you can see what it looks like. Now, what does this thing actually do, right? Anytime you see something like this, the Penn Biden Center for Diplomacy and Global Engagement. Does anybody know what that means? Let's see if we can find out because I had no idea. All right, here's what they say over on their website. It says they're strengthening American global leadership for the future. All right, let's figure out how they're going to do that. Learn more. Perfect. All right, our mission statement says, the Penn Biden Center for Diplomacy is founded on the principle that a democratic, open, secure, and tolerant and interconnected world benefits all Americans. All right. Based on our nation's capital, the Penn Biden Center engages, okay, we're going to get to what they do here, more of our fellow citizens in shaping this world while ensuring global engagement and the gains of global engagement are widely shared. Okay, I still don't know exactly what they do. It says the U.S. leadership has sustained an open world. All right, so that's about U.S. leadership. All right, the Penn Biden engages Penn students and partners with its faculty and global centers to convene world leaders, develop and advance smart policy, and strengthen the national debate. All right, no, there you go. I really have no idea what they do still. Here's what they say on YouTube.
The reason why we've been able to lead the world for the last 70 years is because of the power of our example, our value set. All men are created equal. Everyone's entitled to be treated with dignity. Equity matters, fairness matters, decency matters. That's who we are.
Okay, what do you guys do over there?
After World War II, we believed that was in our interest to promote democracy, to support democratic institutions. And that's very much in question today.
We believe in educational diplomacy. We believe that while nations are looking inward increasingly, it's extremely important for us to look outward.
Our secure.
What is she talking about? They're looking inward. We also have to look outward. Did Kamala Harris write this speech?
Lies in the growth, expansion, and freedom of other parts of the world as well.
The Penn Biden Center advances Penn's mission to be a leader in global diplomacy, in international outreach, and as we like to put it, to bring Penn to the world and the world to Penn.
Wow.
I hope the Penn Biden Center will be established as a place where policymakers here at home and abroad will know they can be in touch with some of the best minds in the country and debate and formulate American foreign policy.
Yeah, so where other leaders of the world can come into the United States and engage with Biden, engage with Joe Biden, essentially. Okay, so you can see that that's what they do. No idea what they actually do. I don't even think that they know what they actually do, but I'm sure they make a ton of money, and I'm sure that all goes to very good purposes. All right, and so now we're going to see who is actually in charge of this investigation, the person who's going to be watching what those confidential records looked like. Let's learn more about the man himself. John Lausch. He was born 1970. An American attorney currently serving as the U.S. Attorney for the Northern District of Illinois. Previously served as the assistant U.S. attorney in the Northern District of Illinois, 1999 to 2010. He served as the deputy chief of narcotics and gangs, helped lead the district's anti-gang neighborhoods. He went to Northwestern, and he went to Harvard. Oh, great. Great. Oh, great. Here we go again. All right. He says he's also clerked for the 7th Circuit. Perfect. All right. So he was nominated back in 2017. He was sworn in 2017. Dick Durbin and Tammy Duckworth, who I think are both Democrats, released a joint statement that Lausch should remain in office in the new administration to complete sensitive investigations. That's interesting. So we've got, unlike 55 other Trump-era attorneys, he was not asked to resign. Why? I wonder why. So when Biden comes in, he says, you're all fired. Get out of here. Not this guy. They like this guy. All right. So I don't know why exactly, but he's not, he's not been asked to leave. And so we're going to take a quick listen to what he had to say, because somebody found a clip of him when he was speaking. This is Mr. Lausch, the new assigned attorney investigating Joe Biden's classified documents.
We're here today to discuss a critically important topic, violent crime in Chicago. As Attorney General Barr has made clear, the most basic responsibility of government is to protect the safety of our citizens. For those of us in law enforcement, our top priority is to keep people safe. For much of this year, Chicago and many other cities have experienced significant, unacceptable, and in many instances, staggering spikes in homicides, shootings, and other violent crime. In response, the Attorney General launched Operation Legend, a systematic and coordinated law enforcement initiative in which federal law enforcement agencies work with state and local law enforcement departments to fight these crimes. In Chicago, we are fortunate to have one of the finest police departments in the country, the Chicago Police Department. The brave men and women in uniform have worked tirelessly to protect the citizens of Chicago. The goal of Operation Legend is to reinforce and to accelerate their efforts to reduce violent crime. The Attorney General has endeavored to do so by sending additional federal resources to Chicago, including a substantial number of agents from the ATF, FBI, DEA, and the United States Marshal Service. The Department of Homeland Security Investigation also committed additional agents. Since that time, about 7 weeks ago, when Operation Legend began in Chicago on July 22nd, my office and our federal and local partners have worked together to investigate and to prosecute the individuals who are driving the violence in Chicago.
All right, so maybe those are some of the investigations that they wanted him to sort of stick around and see. Of course, we will see what he finds for us. They've told us that the investigation is going to be wrapping up here soon. And so we'll keep going. We've got CNN now, which is going to break down the compare and the contrast between Joe Biden, what he said when he was on 60 Minutes some time ago, and how this comports with these new possible charges, with this new evidence that Joe Biden apparently had classified documents. But first, my friends, let's talk about our friends over at 4patriots.com, because they are amazing sponsors of this program. And of course, as you know, sometimes power goes out. A tree branch one time hit a power line back in Ohio, 2003. It shut down the power for around 100 people. 21 power plants and 100 people died is actually what happened. Now, we have a power grid that was designed back in the 1800s. Even the White House sees it. They're saying that the 2/3 of the grid are at least 25 years old. So they recently announced billions of dollars to update it. You heard about all these packages. And how long is that going to take to fix our power grid? That's why having power is now more important than ever. And you can go to 4patriots.com, grab yourself a Patriot Power generator, the 1800. This is something so amazing. You don't even need to install this in your house. It's portable. You can take it with you. Powerful enough to power your devices, your medical devices, even your fridge if you need it. And you can go to 4patriots.com, use code Robert to get 10% off your first purchase on anything in the store, including this beautiful Patriots Power Generator. You'll get their famous guarantee for an entire year after your order, plus free shipping on anything $97 or above. A portion of every sale goes to charities who support our veterans and their families. And so you can go to 4patriots.com, take a look at this Patriot Power Generator, use code Robert, and get yours today. All right, my friends. And so let's carry on. Now, Joe Biden has to reconcile his two statements. CNN got the clip. Some time ago, Joe Biden said that Trump's possession of these classified documents were so irresponsible that he couldn't even believe it. What does Joe Biden say now?
We have this.
When you saw the photograph of the top secret documents laid out on the floor at Mar-a-Lago, what did you think to yourself, looking at that image?
Tell us, Joe.
How that could possibly happen.
I know.
How anyone could be that irresponsible.
Oh, gross.
And I thought, what data was in there that may compromise sources and methods?
Good
By
question.
that, I mean names of people who helped, or et cetera. And it's just totally irresponsible.
Totally irresponsible. Unbelievable that somebody could do something like that. And in those documents, who knows what's in them? I mean, there really could be anything in there. Top secret nuclear codes, information being stolen and sent over to the Russians, or it could be materials related to Ukraine, Iran, and other countries. CNN reported this Tuesday, January 10th. They say that the U.S. materials, the intelligence documents that were found in Biden's private office, were related to, of course, Ukraine. And who spent a lot of time over there, engaged in a lot of issues internationally? Hunter Biden. Very convenient. Now, here we can see more, but CNN reports, very conveniently, that among the items from Joe Biden's time as vice president discovered in a private office last fall, right before the midterms, are 10 classified documents, including U.S. intelligence memos, the same kind that Joe Biden just said he was ultra concerned about, and briefing materials that covered topics including Ukraine and Iran, along with the UK. Now, Attorney General Merrick Garland received a preliminary report on this document. Law enforcement's going to decide how to proceed. We already talked about John Lausch. But the classified documents that we see, they were dated between 2013 and 2016, according to the source. They were found in 3 or 4 boxes, also containing unclassified papers that fall under the Presidential Records Act. And they were not as nice to Trump about this, right? They were saying that, in fact, they didn't say hardly any of this type of language, that Trump was covered under anything. Every document was illegal. It was actually embarrassing that he mixed classified and unclassified papers, right? This was egregious when Trump did this. The commingling of top secret documents with other magazines and things, unbelievable. The vast majority of the items, they say, excusing this, contains personal Biden family documents, including, get the sympathy card violin out, including materials about Beau Biden's funeral arrangements and condolence letters, man. The source told CNN. It's not clear if the boxes with classified materials contained Hunter Biden's farewell letter. Oh, gosh. You know, it's really, really, you know, and with all due respect to Beau Biden, and rest in peace, right? I understand the pain there. I'm mocking CNN for including this in the article. They didn't play, you know, first of all, you know, it's really a shame that this is even an issue. You know, those documents were Joe Biden's dead son documents, okay? How dare you? It's not clear if the boxes with classified documents contain personal materials. Now, Attorney General Merrick Garland assigned the U.S. Attorney in Chicago to investigate this. We learned about who that was. The documents were discovered 6 days before the midterm elections, but the matter only became public on Monday due to news reports because everybody else was covering it up. Now, CNN is doing this very interesting compare and contrast because they are, you know, unbiased now, and they're working towards creating a more neutral place where they can spread their propaganda. Here, they tell us, the side-by-side, Joe Biden, oh, look, 10 total documents compared to Trump's at least 325. And They told us historically that that doesn't matter. They said that simple possession of one document is enough, right? And that was enough to prosecute. So that doesn't really matter according to their own rules. Some top secret, 60 top secret, again, doesn't matter, inconsequential. The fact you got one, it's prosecutable enough is what their argument was. Now, the difference here, right, is this obstruction. This is where they're going to try to distinguish Trump's case versus Biden's case. He's cooperating. Lawyers found and they alerted the archives, right? They're good little government bureaucrats. They just say, oh, well, gosh, we got to do the right thing. According to them, Trump says, hey, first of all, the reason why I didn't, alert the archives and why we didn't cooperate is because I was the president and you were not. You were the vice president there, Joe. So you didn't have the authority to declassify and do the things that the president has the authority to do. That's why you're cooperating. That's why lawyers found and alerted the archives, because it's a different classification. It's a whole different status. There's different powers. And Trump was asserting his power, which is his right to do in this country. He said, I'm the president. I declassified these things. Those are my documents, not yours. President Bill Clinton used the same excuse to keep his sock drawer clean and not turn those records over to the National Archives. Judicial Watch sued over that. And the D.C. Circuit Court affirmed presidents have ultimate authority in making those distinctions. Because if the president doesn't have those authorities in making those distinctions, who does? Some head librarian at the National Archives? Is that the type of checks and balances that we just talked about in this country, where the National Archives has more declassification authority than the sitting president does? To say, oh, no, sorry, sir, you can't do that. You didn't fill out this form. And I'm not going to allow you to do that. And Trump says, no, we're not doing that stupid game. I'm the president. You're not. They're mine, not yours. FBI said, well, we're going to go raid his house, even though they didn't go raid Hillary Clinton's house when she had classified material on her email server. They didn't even prosecute her. But they did, and they were going headstrong into prosecuting Trump, and they're doing these stupid little compare and contrasts to try to make themselves feel better about this, because many of them were hyperventilating for the last, I don't know, ever since this happened, about what a catastrophe this was. Remember guys like Andrew Weissman we played on this show day after day, we're just crying day after day about how egregious this was. CNN now has a compare and contrast. Now, the source told CNN that a personal lawyer for Biden was closing out the downtown D.C. office that Biden used to work out of. The lawyer saw a manila folder that was labeled personal, opened the envelope, and noticed there were classified documents inside. Not personal at all. How'd the documents get in there? And this is very curious. In fact, it sounds like the former vice president was trying to obscure the documents. He was trying to hide them. This is malicious intent. He was trying to insert them in a place nobody would even look and label it personal. Joe Biden's sitting there. He's like, aha, this is how I'll hide Hunter's classified materials. Personal. Nobody will look in there. The lawyer closed the envelope and called NARA, National Archives. After making contact with them, Biden's team turned over several boxes in an abundance of caution. And because they went, holy crap, we had classified documents. Oh, no, we are so screwed. We made this one of our biggest issues for Trump. Crap. Now, to be honest with you, I am honestly surprised that this ever made it out. I can't believe this hasn't been covered up, or that the lawyers just didn't throw those right in the shredder or something. But the lawyers, I can understand not throwing them in the shredder. Everybody else, the fact that CBS got this, the fact that this is even out there, it's like, oh my goodness. How is the first thing that Joe Biden did after they went after Trump's office is to not scrub his records before they, before they go? Wouldn't that be like priority number one? You just make sure that your nose is clean, your side of the street's clean before you start criticizing the other side. But no, they didn't do that. Even though many of the boxes contain personal matters. Now, the U.S. attorney has submitted preliminary findings to Garland, and he must now decide how to proceed. In the Trump matter, Garland has already tapped special counsel Jack Smith, who used to work at the International Criminal Court previously, to investigate Trump, they wanted to prosecute him so stinking bad. The Biden probe is nowhere near that stage. Garland chose to have Lausch conduct an initial review. He's one of 2 remaining Trump-appointed U.S. attorneys. And to avoid the appearance of conflict of interest, people briefed on the matter said. Lausch is not expected to undertake any additional fact gathering. We have a clip. In an awkward moment on Monday, Garland was sitting alongside Biden at a diplomatic summit in Mexico. Reporters shouted questions. Biden didn't answer. We'll play that clip later. Now, there are serious political consequences to this entire debacle for the Democrats. They were making this a centerpiece of their entire operation, and now they're having to reconcile what the heck happened. Here is CNN having a discussion and trying to mash these 2 worldviews together.
We have this.
When you saw the photograph of the top secret documents laid out on the floor at Mar-a-Lago, what did you think to yourself, looking at that image?
How that could possibly happen.
I know.
How anyone could be that irresponsible.
That irresponsible.
And I thought, what data was in there that may compromise sources and methods?
Hunter's
By that,
checks?
I mean names of people who helped, or et cetera. And
Hunter's
it's just
contracts?
totally irresponsible.
All right, so now CNN's going to unpack
Totally
this.
irresponsible. And
I just want to be precise. That was released on CBS 60 Minutes on September 18th, 2022, about a month or so before, maybe 2 months before they found similar documents at the Biden private office.
right, exactly. The president obviously was not, according to the statement that we received from the White House, was not at that point aware of the discovery of these items.
Okay, yes, not aware of the discovery of the items, but it was Biden's office in a Biden-marked folder, presumably, that says personal on it. So it's Biden's personal stuff. So he knew, right? He knew. Now, the White House didn't know that it was discovered, but he knew about it. So old Wolfie Blitzer is there trying to be very cutesy on this. Well, hold on a minute. When Biden was sitting there talking to 60 Minutes, he had no idea about these classified documents. And it's kind of like, yeah, that's true, right? He didn't know they were discovered, but they're his documents there, Wolfster. So he knew, presumably, that they were there. Wasn't that the same standard that you were applying to Trump? Like, hold on a minute now. Does Trump now get the excuse that the I didn't know thing works? Can he say that? No, I didn't know those documents were in there. No, I don't think so. And whoever this is pushes back on Wolf and says, well, yeah, kind of.
And according to the statement that we received from the White House, was not at that point aware of the discovery of these items. But what it will call into question is, just as the president made this mistake, or someone made this mistake, and transported these
Definitely
documents to the Penn Biden Center, just as easily someone could have done this in the case of former President Donald Trump. And the question to the Justice Department is, are you treating them differently? Obviously, the Trump investigation, we know, has taken a much different turn, right? You have months and months between
Here's the cope.
where the archives was asking for these documents to be returned. We know that.
All right, so they're swapping over now to obstruction. But he's like, oh, man. And you can even see the little smirk on his face. He's like, oh, man, this is a big S sandwich, and we are having to eat this big time. This sucks. Oh, no. But now we have a clip of Joe Biden, right? He admits that he didn't have any access to these materials. After you're exiting the office as vice president, you lose access to your security briefs. This is Joe Biden admitting, showing that he didn't have access to the documents that they later found in his possession in his office.
In 2018, Joe Biden addressed his access to classified information in an interview with me. This was in the context of Russia's interference in U.S. elections, and it was in that office.
Look at this location. That's the same center. That's where the classified documents are. They're literally having an interview inside
the Penn Biden Center.
I don't have access to classified information anymore. I don't get briefed every morning by the agency.
Okay, but apparently he had those classified documents in the closet, in this room somewhere. Turn around, Joe. It's right behind you in the closet.
I did for 8 years.
He had it for 8 years, but he doesn't have access to it now.
Biden Center.
I don't have access to classified information anymore. I don't get briefed every morning by the agency, as I did for 8 years.
So you don't have access to it, but you do in your closet. It's in a manila envelope called personal. It's right back there. They just found it. All right, well, that's criminal and illegal and terrorist activity. So that's the president. And CNN is really having a hard time with this. So I found this fun clip of a former federal prosecutor who then converted over to a defense attorney, which is fine. We take them. I mean, they're not pure blood defense lawyers. That's fine, but we'll still take them. I mean, it's better than them continuing to be prosecutors. It's not ideal. We'd rather people just go right into defense and just be a pure blood defense attorney like we are at our firm. But, you know, not everybody's perfect. Some people learn later, learn later that they got to change teams. Anyways, former federal prosecutor turned defense lawyer is invited onto CNN and asked about this document dilemma where Joe Biden was found with classified documents in violation of the law in his personal office. What does this mean?
Republican lawmakers seizing on revelations that several documents, classified documents from President Biden's time as vice president, were discovered in his former private office. Now, does this compare at all to Donald Trump's hoarding of secret records at Mar-a-Lago?
What?
And what is the fallout here?
Okay, so let's just pause. We're going to break this one down. We've got some fun with this one. So she says documents were found at Biden's residence. Passive language, they were found. How does this compare with the hoarding of national security secrets by Trump? One more time.
Republican lawmakers seizing on revelations that several documents, classified documents from President Biden's time as vice president, were discovered in his former private office. Now, does this compare at all to Donald Trump's hoarding of secret records at Mar-a-Lago?
Found, hoard.
And what is the fallout here? Let's bring in criminal defense attorney and former federal prosecutor Katie Cherkasky. Good morning, Katie. Compare and contrast for me, I guess, this investigation and what happened with the former president at Mar-a-Lago, where when you put them side by side, 160 plus 60 top secret documents found at Mar-a-Lago.
Here you go.
These are less than 12 total.
All right, so here you go. Here's one of their dumb graphics, like they posted on their blog post. Classified documents found, Biden, under 12. Wow, that's great. Doesn't matter, right? Your people were arguing it doesn't matter. Possession of one. Simple possession is enough. Some top secret versus 60 top secret. Okay. Same point. The only distinguishing factor is cooperating versus under investigation. So you can see, man, they are having a really hard time. They're sitting around in their, pre-show rooms and they're saying, how can we just figure this one out? Trump's illegal, Biden's lawful. And they're coming up with these compare and contrast charts. I think it's actually a good idea. The only one that actually matters is this cooperation one. Now, the distinguishing factor on this, they're missing like another row. An additional row should say president, and the other one should say not president, right? So Biden should say not president when he did all this stuff, and Trump should say president. And that would also be a pretty good distinguishing factor, right? And you could keep going down that road if you'd like to. You could also, declassified, okay, was actually engaging with the National Archives. Okay, the National Archives knew about Trump's documents, and they made a request for them. Did the National Archives know about Biden's documents and make a request for them? I don't know. So we could add a whole bunch of additional rows. President versus not, know about the documents versus didn't know about the documents, stole the documents versus didn't steal the documents. We'll have to see.
Some top secret documents found in this office from the former vice president.
Well, obviously, I think the truth sometimes is really stranger than fiction here. This has been a story that we've been talking about with Donald Trump, and now we have
melting down.
Something that seems very similar with President Biden. And there are some differences, but there's a lot of key facts that are very similar. There are classified documents that were held after the point of being in office, it appears.
Illegal.
And we have to remember that the vice president, unlike the president, does not have the same authority to declassify documents, and they are subject to those laws regarding the handling of those. Now, in this
so why don't you put that on your little chart there, CNN? You left that one off.
Case with President Biden, it doesn't seem that there's any sort of obstruction efforts, that the documents were readily turned over. And certainly there hasn't been any claims that he owns them or has any sort of right over them. So there seems to be cooperation there.
President
so in terms
versus
of the
not
obstruction,
president.
which I think for President Trump's purposes is the much more significant legal issue.
That
does not seem to be an issue in this case. But still, the handling of the documents is at issue.
No surprise that supporters of the
I have a lot of questions about that point, okay? My question is, did Joe Biden sign over a similar letter? I mean, Trump had to confirm, right, that like at the end of moving, it's like, hey, move out day, Joe Biden, it's move out day, right? Has anybody investigated that? Like, did Joe Biden obstruct also? Did Joe Biden say, I returned all my library books, okay? The National Archives wanted that from Trump. Did they also send a similar form, a similar request? Did Joe Biden's lawyers, did his attorneys say, you've got everything that we've got? Promise, right? Just like Trump's attorneys were asked to do, just like Christina Bobb was asked to do. So did Joe Biden sign anything like that? Does that exist anywhere? Presuming it does, right? That's sort of the exit plan. They would have done the same thing. Now, Joe Biden, we still don't know how he got the documents or whether he's entitled to those documents in the first place. So the simple possession of those, right? If they ask him, Joe, did you return the documents? Or, you know, he implied that those documents had been returned and they were not returned. That would be the exact same type of obstruction they're alleging Trump committed. Literally the exact same. I gave you all the documents back. I confirmed it in writing, and they're not there. They're not back. They're in Biden's office. So this obstruction thing, like, yeah, but we don't know anything about Biden's case. Why does he have those documents? You know, did he have permission to have them? So if he ever promised that he gave them back, he didn't. That's obstruction too. So it equates, right? It's the same thing. Both were in possession of documents. Both were top secret / classified. Both probably signed documents that said that they had given them all back. The only distinguishing factor, as far as I can tell, is that Trump was president. Biden was not.
Former president jumped on this, and the former president himself on his social media site was saying, when is the FBI going to raid all the homes
Great question
of Joe
there,
Biden?
Trump.
I guess the point here is that the Biden team is cooperating, and actually they were the ones to reveal this, right?
Well, that's very true. And I think we have to remember the basis for the search warrant was that there was a dispute about the refusal to turn over the documents, and that did not occur here. So I think in terms, again, of the obstruction, that is not present in this case. But the mishandling of classified documents.
You don't know that yet, right? Okay, so she doesn't know that yet. We haven't seen any evidence of that is the better way to well, maybe she said that, but we don't know that, right? That's still an open question. Is at any point did Joe Biden promise that he didn't have any more classified documents? He seemed to know that, right? He told that to the woman on CNN. He said, I don't have access to those documents. So he knew that. He must have presumed that they had all been turned over. Who confirmed that? That's obstruction.
That if that is an offense that's being looked at, that happens at the time the documents are removed, potentially, if they're done so under inappropriate
same thing they were
circumstances.
screaming about on CNN.
So that
when Trump
part
did
of it is more nuanced. And legally, I think that those analyses are much more similar.
Attorney General Merrick Garland has asked the U.S. Attorney in Chicago to investigate how play this out for me. So this is now in the hands of the U.S. Attorney in Chicago. What happens next?
Well, I think that Merrick Garland's in a difficult position.
Yeah, that's an
obviously, he wants to ensure that the law is enforced fairly and have the appearance and the optics of fairness. But there's going to be a lot of questions about the comparisons here. So I believe that he assigned this U.S. attorney outside of the local jurisdiction to have some appearance of fairness. They seem to be a Republican appointee. And there's
a Republican appointee that they always use as cover. That's why they weren't asked to resign. That's great. Trump appointed this person, but Dick Durbin and Tammy Duckworth said, he's our guy. Okay, Joe, do not fire this dude. He's great. Anytime that you need somebody who's going to go, like kind of be our inside dude, who's going to go investigate our political Trumper, we need some people like that. We need some people who we can just put on a list and use as talking points to say, well, Trump appointed them, so therefore they're not biased. It's a very convenient way to not appoint a special counsel. You just say, oh, it's a Trump appointee. It's the same thing they're doing with Hunter Biden and David Weiss and the Delaware investigation into Hunter's taxes and Hunter's gun crimes and all of those other things. They say David Weiss is a Trump lawyer, even though nobody thinks David Weiss is a Trumper, okay? The reason he's still around him is because he was investigating the VP Biden's son, Hunter. This person is still kept around for some reason. So they like to play this little game where they say it's a big Trump, sympathetic individual, and it's very unlikely to be the case.
Also the optics that go along with that. But ultimately, I think that there's going to need to be a special counsel appointed to look into whether this is a criminal offense or whether this is something that is prosecutable even.
Yeah, it's the president. It's the president. It's not a former president. So if a former president gets a special counsel, the current president's got to get one too, right?
Which sounds ridiculous. And I think we've all seen how awkward it can get when the FBI and DOJ start investigating a sitting president. But ultimately, that is the big question here, is what to do with these allegations.
One thing we've heard from people who have handled these kind of documents, and you have as well, that maybe there's a problem with overclassification. Talk to me about that.
Overclassification? That's a very convenient excuse. Did Trump ever get that benefit of the doubt? Remember, oftentimes we were joking here when Trump was going through this. We said these were overdue library books. These were letters and notes and things that were going to end up literally in the National Archives, which is like a big library anyways. And they were demanding those things back. They're classified, right, because it's got like the penmanship of, Kim Jong-un or whatever. But it's not the end of the nuclear codes or something to that effect. So we were talking about this. Are there some things in there that maybe were, classified top secret that aren't really classified top secret, or that maybe shouldn't be? And so it's not actually the end of America. And everybody said that's egregious. That would never happen. That's outrageous. How dare you? CNN is now using that same justification. Well, yeah, I mean, technically there were documents that were found in Biden's office that were technically top secret and classified, but they probably didn't even need to be classified, right?
You have as well. That maybe there's a problem with overclassification. Talk to me about that.
Well, I do think that when you hear the term classified documents, that can refer to any number of things, and certain things are more important than others.
Yeah, like the nuclear codes. They said that Trump
in terms of government agencies, there is a significant amount of classification. There are things that happen on a regular basis with people being mishandling them in some ways, and those are handled sometimes administratively. Right. So it's not always criminal prosecutions that are involved with this, because there is a high volume of documents. Again, though, the president has that declassification authority. Ultimately, every other government employee, including the vice president, is subject to the very strict requirements of handling those documents. So it can be the subject of disciplinary action or even criminal prosecution in some cases. All
right, Katie Cherkasky, nice to see you this morning. Thank you for clearing it all up for us.
Oh, they did not like that interview. Boy, hopefully she gets asked back on there. She delivered a lot of truth and a lot of bad answers for them. Basically that, all that stuff that you said that could happen to Trump, well, basically could happen to Biden too. This is why it's stupid to go and prosecute your political enemies. Maybe you should have thought about that, because guess who's in charge now? Oh, the Republicans are. And guess who's got the ability to now, do a lot of the same stuff, use the same subpoena power that the Democrats were using, the Republicans. And they're going to have a big fat field day with this one. And you can fast forward, you can see how this goes. If the Republicans win, if there's a President Trump, if there's a President DeSantis, if something like this happens and there's a new, Republican whatever this is, J10 select committee, when we all learned about this day, maybe the Democrats will realize what a stupid road this was to travel. We'll have to see. Now, that is what is taking place from the media, and that was the background on the Biden documents. Of course, we will continue to cover. Thank you for liking this video wherever it is you're watching this, and we'll see you on the next one, which is right now, because we're not done with this story. We've got 2 more full segments on this, and now we're swapping over to Republican reaction. The GOP springs into life on the back of the story that Biden took confidential documents and allegedly illegally stored them in his private office. Unbelievable. Donald Trump got castigated for that. The Republican Party, now in control of Congress, got a late Christmas present, and they've got a whole new issue to dive into. Marjorie Taylor Greene hit the ground running. You can see she posted this on Twitter January 9th. She said, Joe Biden took classified documents from the White House when he was vice president. The vice president does not have the power to declassify, only POTUS. Joe Biden stole classified documents, period. Dun, dun. That's the big S word. This is a very serious crime, she says. The Department of Justice and NARA can't sweep this under the rug and persecute Trump. Very interesting take. And she's got an interesting point. Now, she was asked about this in Congress. She was turning a corner, and question for Marjorie Taylor Greene from the media. Now that you've seen the story that Biden took these confidential documents, what is your opinion, Marjorie?
Congresswoman, do you have a message about the documents found at the Penn Biden Center? Yeah, this is a very serious situation. Vice presidents cannot declassify documents, and the fact that Joe Biden is in possession of classified documents when he was vice president signals that we need to have a serious investigation into this.
That's right.
And there's a true two-tiered justice system stemming from Merrick Garland's Department of Justice and the way that President Trump has been treated, who is allowed to classify and declassify documents. Presidents can do that, versus the Democrats and Joe Biden and how he's being treated. I'll echo again, impeach Biden, and that's what we need to do.
What do you make of the timing of this? The documents were found in early November. Do you think?
Yeah, it's a bunch of BS.
Thank you.
Wow. Impeach Joe Biden because it's a bunch of BS. That's Marjorie Taylor Greene, shocked that this is all happening as we speak. So impeach Joe, and it's BS that they covered this up until after the midterms. And she was saying this again on a very big show, which of course is the Tucker Carlson show. And Tucker asked her what she makes of this entire story. Here's what Marjorie had to say.
Huge story. It's very serious. As a matter of fact, Joe Biden conceivably stole those documents.
Wow.
What people need to understand is the President of the United States is the only one that can declassify documents, not the Vice President. For Joe Biden to steal documents and have possession of them, this is a serious investigation, and the communists at NARA can't hide it anymore. And Merrick Garland and the Department of Justice, they have to be held accountable if they don't treat Joe Biden exactly the same way they're treating President Trump. It's ridiculous and it's shameful.
Major double standards exist, and Marjorie Taylor Greene is saying, we're coming in hot. It's BS. They covered this up until after the midterms, and it's now time to impeach, which is just a great way to start a new Congress. Super fun. So we have more clips from Republicans. Representative James Comer says this Biden classified document debacle is well worth an inquiry.
Just yesterday, we learned that classified documents from Joe Biden's time as vice president were stashed in an unsecure closet. The National Archives knew about these documents several months ago, before the election.
Yes,
but the American people were just informed yesterday, thanks to some investigative reporting.
Very convenient.
Meanwhile, the FBI conducted a raid on former President Trump's Mar-a-Lago residence for the same violation. Why is President Biden, who has repeatedly kept classified materials in an unsecure location for years, never faced a raid? Is it because we have a two-tier system of justice?
Yes, it is. And Rep. James Comer, of course, is in the House of Representatives. He's been doing great work on a lot of this stuff, investigating the disgusting bureaucracy in multiple different facets for a long time, and they are in control of the House now. So we're looking forward to that. We've also got Steve Scalise, and so they were out. Republicans were giving a press conference today. The media asked the Republicans about the Biden documents, and they said, you know, is this different than what Trump did?
Discovery of Biden's classified documents. In the case of Mar-a-Lago, they were intentionally withheld, the classified documents, for more than a year, whereas with Biden's classified documents, those were voluntarily turned over. Does that make a difference in your view?
Well, okay, so the media is out here saying, well, Joe Biden's not as bad as Trump. Trump's really bad because he kept the documents for a long time, and Biden gave the documents right over. So this media person is having a difficult time with the concept, the difference between a president and a vice president. Obviously, the vice president literally has no claim for those documents, right? What's he going to say? What's Joe Biden going to say? I declassified them. They're going to say, you were the vice president, idiot. You can't do that. There's no basis for it. So him voluntarily turning it over is not this like charitable act of good faith. He doesn't even have a basis for a claim to them. That's why he gave them over. Trump does have a basis for a claim to those documents. It's called the Presidential Records Act, not the Vice Presidential Records Act. And that's what Trump was using, along with a whole other slew of legal basis for keeping the documents that he thought he was entitled to. So every time the media makes this claim that there was no obstruction, first of all, we don't know that, right? We haven't seen anything about this. We don't know why Biden had the documents in the first place. We also don't know why Biden didn't give the documents back, and whether or not he signed any materials, any chain of custody documents confirming that that had all been disclosed. No idea. And so obstruction is, I would say, very plausible, but they're already writing it off. And they're trying to paper over that with this cooperation BS too, which is also BS. Biden had to give it over. Trump didn't. And Trump had a legal team that was making its arguments and litigating this stuff. And the government just said, it's ours, it's ours, it's ours. And he said, it isn't. And they said, well, we have the FBI, you don't, so we're just going to come take it. And if that was applicable to Trump, every one of those precedents has now been set and is applicable to the Democrats. But they are not going to distinguish these cases appropriately. That's why we have to do it here.
Well, do we really know that? For years, when Vice President Biden left office, it looks like he took classified documents with him. And he was very critical of President Trump. By the way, the only person that has the constitutional ability to declassify any documents is the President of the United States, not the Vice President. So if then Vice President Biden took classified documents with him and held them for years and criticized former President Trump during that same time that he had those classified documents, and only after it was uncovered did he turn them back. I wonder why the press isn't asking the same questions of him as Vice President taking classified documents that they were asking President Trump.
Yeah, great question. Why not? Why not ask that? Why is Joe Biden allowed to be, sort of his behavior excused as though, oh, well, they just found it. It was just a mistake. He gave them back right away. He had no choice but to give them back right away. Why was he in possession of them in the first place? If he had authority at some point in time, why didn't he confirm that there were no additional documents in his possession, right? Library books were checked out by Joe. Why didn't he have to check them back in? Trump is getting castigated for that. His library book check back in, they say, was not complete. Was Joe's? Because Trump got raided for that. Here's Byron Donalds. Byron Donalds was also previously nominated for the Speaker of the House of Representatives. Byron Donalds is asked about Biden's classified document theft. Here's what he had to say.
Congressman, thanks so much for joining us. Let me get your reaction to the breaking news. You're a member of Congress. You deal with classified information. What's your reaction to this?
Oh, well, my reaction is pretty simple. I'm wondering why the Vice President of the United States had classified documents outside of the hands of the intelligence community. Listen, it's been pretty clear that presidents do have some classified documents. But the difference between a president and everybody else is the president has the ability to declassify information. The vice president has no ability to declassify information. So number one, what was he doing with classified information in his possession? Number two, why did it take 6 years? And I want to stress this for the American people. Joe Biden left the vice presidency in 2017. So it's taken 6 years for these documents to surface. That is incredibly concerning.
Yeah, either NARA didn't request them and they were okay with some classified documents floating around out there in the ether for people who were no longer in office, right? In which case their standards are pretty low, in which case those same standards should be applicable to Trump. And Trump shouldn't be the one who's, prosecuted criminally if it's just low standards. That's one option. Or number two, NARA didn't know the documents were missing. They didn't know the documents were gone, so they couldn't go and make an additional request. They couldn't go do what they did with Trump and say, you have overdue library books, because they didn't know the documents were gone, which begs the question, why were the documents gone and why didn't NARA have inventory of them?
And point number three, and this is the one that's most important. Everybody can go back to the Hillary Clinton email saga. We know other presidents have had classified information, but why was there a raid on Mar-a-Lago? But now this story just kind of seeps out and everybody's saying, oh, we just want to get down to the bottom of it. And everybody's giving the benefit of the doubt. No. A vice president of the United States or a secretary of state or anybody else should not be having classified information, period.
And they have no declassification authority. They've got no ability to do any of the things that Trump did. Byron Donalds. Now, there are other Congress people who are chiming in. Andy Biggs, shout out to Arizona, also made an interesting point. Where did the money for the Biden organization come from? We have a lot of questions about this, in particular with Hunter Biden and the Biden crime family. We have a question from Andy Biggs. He says, Biden stole classified documents and stored them at his think tank while he was vice president. The vice president does not have any authority to declassify classified documents. And this think tank, allegedly, the one that we just saw a video of that has no people in there, that does Lord knows what, literally. Global Diplomacy and Integration. No idea what they do. Apparently, according to Andy Biggs, they received $54 million in funding from the CCP. So there are classified confidential documents that have been housed in a closet somewhere at an organization that Joe Biden runs. It's basically empty in Washington that got $54 million in funding from the CCP. That's another distinguishing factor. I'm curious. Did Mar-a-Lago get $54 million from the CCP that might have compromised them or not? And Trump had continual Secret Service protection. Don't know if that was there at this location, but that's his private personal residence. Okay, so you got to imagine that's a lot more secure than some empty office building on the outskirts of Washington or wherever it is. Absolutely another row that the media has forgotten to add. Trump wasn't funded by the CCP. Joe Biden evidently was. And we followed that through with the interviews with Garrett Ziegler. And you can go through. We haven't even cracked the surface on the Hunter Biden laptop, right? And whether there's any information there from Penn Biden, so on and so. So you can check that out from Andy Biggs as well. Now, Trump responded to this over on Truth Social. Trump said 22 hours ago, when is the FBI going to raid the many homes of Joe Biden, perhaps even the White House? These documents were definitely not declassified because he is the vice president, doesn't have the authority to do that. Trump also said, wow, the Biden think tank is funded by China. Also, a VP cannot declassify documents which are covered by the Federal Records Act, which is criminal and much tougher than the Presidential Records Act, which is not criminal. Trump's pulling out the law. A president, he says, can declassify. How much more information has China been given? And he also says the amount was $54 million that the Biden think tank received from China. That's a lot of money. Trump is speculating. He says they saw the classified documents. So for all the people who said that Trump was meeting with the Saudis at Mar-a-Lago and that he had, old Pootie Poo rolling around the golf club course with him, where is there hyperventilating on this one? Nowhere to be found. But the Republicans are in charge. They say this midterm, the midterm election, and other things may have been impacted by this. And they're demanding impeachment. Marjorie Taylor Greene says they're going to be focusing on holding them accountable. Scalise, Byron Donalds, James Comer, many others brought into the fold. And we'll see what the Republicans are able to unpack. Thank you for liking this video wherever it is you're watching this, and for hitting that subscribe button. We will continue to cover. And our final segment on the day, my friends, is the Democrats' reaction to the documents. Democrats respond to the very bad news for them that Joe Biden had confidential documents in his office. Oh, man, they were so excited that they were going to be able to clobber President Trump over the head with this indefinitely. And now a lot of the air is out of their sails. And so the Democrats dragged out this fella, who we know from the illegally constituted January 6th Select Committee, to explain this away. Why the double standards? Why is Trump such a criminal, but Biden is so useful? We're going to start with Pete Aguilar, then listen to MSNBC, see if Biden had anything to say about it, check in with The View, and as well as this poor guy on CNN who says that this essentially exonerates Trump. Let's start with the Democrats, though. Pete Aguilar comes out in front of the media, and he's asked the first question. Hey, Pete, you were very hysterical over Trump and his confidential documents. Now that Joe Biden has been found to have his confidential documents, do you have any concerns about that one?
Questions?
Chairman Aguilar, HIWS with CBS News. Should the discovery of President Biden's classified documents been disclosed before the midterms?
Yes.
Well, let's step back and talk about this for a minute.
Question. Should the disclosure that this happened, that you had these documents, you knew about them November 2nd, should they have been disclosed prior to the election?
President Biden Biden's classified documents been disclosed before the midterms?
Well, let's step back and talk about this for a minute because.
All right, let's do it.
And I appreciate the question.
Great.
This is Republican hypocrisy in its finest.
What?
When the former president had 320 documents found at his personal residence, they said that, quote, that will not be a priority. What President Biden did was disclose this to the archives.
He had to.
Let law enforcement know.
He had to.
That is exactly the way that you should handle this.
Well, he had to.
So
legally.
We're going to support the fact that the president is following this established protocol, that he did the right thing, and see what other and see where we go from here. But we're not interested. Republicans aren't interested in having meaningful oversight. They're just interested in opposing this president.
Okay, so the first point that he made was about the hypocrisy, which is strange because the Biden administration, if they were being consistent and they were raiding people who had documents, they would have also raided Joe Biden's other properties. I mean, does Joe Biden have additional documents out there? Is this all the documents? Or are there other national security secrets, top secret classified materials out there? I have no idea. But they called for the prosecution of Trump, and they're not calling for the prosecution of Biden. So that, I think, is the definition of hypocrisy. Now, the Republicans, I think, have really been more consistent on this. The Republicans have said this is a ridiculous thing to go and raid a former president. It's insane to do that and to prosecute a former president for overdue library books, which is essentially all that they have turned out to be. After the midterms, you've kind of noticed they stopped talking about those documents so much. So it's a very similar thing. The Republicans here have been consistent. Now, my base opinion, right, is that this is probably nothing, right? This is probably, yes, overdue library books, much the same way that Trump's was overdue library books. I don't know. Maybe there's more there. Maybe there are Ukrainian connections there. Or there's more information about Hunter Biden. There is a different situation where Trump is entitled to more of these records under the law than Joe Biden is. And there's also questions about why he had those documents. But the point is there's distinguishing factors between the two. They can't seem to extract the two from one another. They want to give Biden the benefit of the doubt and criminalize literally everything that Trump did, even though Trump has more justifications legally than Biden did. So it's not hypocritical for the Republicans to say they don't support prosecutions in both cases. But if you're going to prosecute Trump, then the standard has to be equally applied. You should also prosecute Biden. That's the opposite of hypocritical. This guy's hypocritical by saying prosecute Trump, don't prosecute Biden.
What do you say to, so sorry.
Go ahead.
What do you say to critics who argue these documents were discovered November 2nd, midterms were November 8th, and they could have been withheld to avoid potential damage against Democrats before the midterms?
This was done in consultation. You saw Merrick Garland have a U.S. attorney weigh in at this point. This is being done the exact way, getting the archives involved. Someone who was on the January 6th committee.
We know. Yeah, we know.
There is a process to handling documents. The president is handling it the way he should. That's what's important.
There is a process of handling documents. Yeah. So how did he get them? We're going to learn about that, right? We all know how Trump got his documents. They put them on moving boxes and shipped them down to Mar-a-Lago, all right? What happened with Joe's? Why did he have them? Why was the National Archives not asking for them? Yes, it's great that everything is being handled now. He got caught with his hand in the cookie jar. He got actually some cookie jars in a manila envelope called personal on them. And those have to go back now. So of course he's going to comport with the law. But the crime was before the discovery, long before the discovery. But he's just going to say, well, he's doing everything he should be now. That's not what we're asking about.
Go ahead.
To follow up on that, though, I mean, in April we knew about in August we knew about the search warrant executed at Mar-a-Lago. Isn't that sort of a time when everybody goes, let's just make sure we don't have any of our own? Isn't this a little bit sloppy to not have this?
Why didn't you clean your nose up,
on
guys?
the Democrat side to make sure that when they're saying this is terrible, he has documents, also make sure that we don't have any documents?
The question is, when you're hyperventilating out there about Trump, maybe you should make sure that you also don't have classified document problems, he's going to say, well, talk to the White House about that.
I think that's a question for me. That might be a question directed down the street. But what I'll tell you is this is being done. This is being handled the way he should. This is not about August. This is about today. Where we are at. The president is handling this the way that he should. He's disclosing it. He's letting the archives know. Law enforcement is aware. We're handling this with the seriousness at which it deserves. But we're not downplaying this, which is exactly what House Republicans have done. Did you have something?
You are downplaying it. You are downplaying it, saying he did everything right and everything's by the book, and distinguishing it from what Trump did. And that's about all we got out of that press conference. Now, Biden has not addressed this yet. Questions for the White House have been, are you going to respond to this? We haven't heard from Karine Jean-Pierre. They have been traveling around. Biden has been meeting with people in different locations. Joe sitting with dictator Trudeau in Mexico, and they have a nice little handshake to wrap up whatever this is. And then Biden ignores questions from the media. Hey, Joe, any comment on that classified material that you stole?
Years, but I never.
Just sit there.
All right, guys, let's head out. TV, we can start moving. Please get your audio on.
No response. They just smirk and look at each other. They're down in Mexico. We see the rest of the Biden cabinet is basically there. We've got Secretary of State Anthony Blinken. We've got U.S. Attorney General Merrick Garland. And then you can see here Department of Homeland Security, who doesn't care about the homeland or security, is also sitting there. Alejandro Mayorkas. Joe Biden, front and center.
Agradecemos a
questions in the background. Mr. President, any response? Any response, Mr. President? No. No answers, no response, of course, because, well, they don't have much to say. But we are going to listen to MSNBC explain exactly what their basis is, why Biden is innocent, and why Trump is as guilty as they come. Right after we have a quick message from Goldco, my friends. And Goldco is a sponsor that's back on the program. We're grateful they are here with us. And they have a message, of course. If you have an IRA, a 401k, or a savings account, things are scary out there. The Biden administration already printed more money in the past 2 years than the previous 100 years combined, and it is not stopping. National debt hit a record $30+ trillion. Inflation's the highest we've seen since 1982. It's only a matter of time until the entire house of cards comes crashing down. If you have retirement savings, your money could be at serious risk. I'll invite you to talk to my friends at Goldco. See if you can protect your retirement with gold and silver before it's too late. Go to this address right on your screen, robertlikesgold.com. They'll give you $10,000 or more in silver when you open up a qualifying account at robertlikesgold.com. And you'll also notice when you go there, Robert Likes Gold, they're a better business rated business, lots of great reviews, and they will help you consider your options to protect your retirement at robertlikesgold.com. All right. So MSNBC is trying to paper over this and trying to calm the nerves. A lot of people are nervous that Joe Biden was found with classified documents. And so they've got to calm their audience a bit. So they bring on this woman who's going to explain the differences between Trump's criminality and Joe Biden's honest, innocent mistake.
When we first learned about Donald Trump's potential violations, we've learned over time that he took and then retained more than 320 documents with classification markings. So,
because he says he's allowed to do that. He's entitled to do that as a president who declassified them. He's entitled to them under the Presidential Records Act and so on.
So far, the number of documents that we understand were found in President Biden's personal office number about 10. So one is quantity. The second is a question of where they were found. Obviously, in President Trump's case, they were found in a variety of locations, whether it be in his personal office at Mar-a-Lago, in the residence in Mar-a-Lago, in storage units in Mar-a-Lago, and then most recently in a storage unit in West Palm Beach, where some of the papers from his presidency were taken. Here, all we know to date is that documents were found in a locked closet in an office at the Penn Biden Center that the former president was using. But I venture to say the biggest difference here is one that the law recognizes. And
yeah, so the law doesn't really care about that, right? The law doesn't say you're allowed to be in possession of confidential documents except if they are locked in a closet under a camera where there's 2 armed guards 24 hours a day, right? That's not what the law says. So this is nice, like it's window dressing. Otherwise, we would have been making this argument. We were making similar arguments. We were saying, because they were making the argument that Trump basically had this stuff out, you know, like a book out there on a lawn chair out there at the pool at Mar-a-Lago. You know, there's classified documents over there. Not the case. But the law doesn't care. The law doesn't care about that at all. And we had clips of Bill Barr here saying the same thing, saying, actually, you know, the law doesn't really matter, doesn't care about any of these things. And if you read the statute, it's pretty basically bland, cut and dry. So what she's explaining, right, this is to calm their nerves a little bit and to say Joe Biden, you know, is a real nice guy because his was more secure than Trump's.
that's one of willfulness. There's nothing to indicate, based on what we know so far, that President Biden either took these documents willfully or retained them willfully. And
we don't know that so far, but he was in possession of them. So somebody took the documents. Who took the documents? And the same question applies. If the National Archives was asking for an exit interview, it was asking for a conclusion document when, you know, Biden was completing his last day, did he confirm? Did anybody from his office confirm that everything had been returned? Because if so, they fraudulently signed a chain of custody document. And that's the same allegation they say is obstruction when Trump did it.
you look back at the Trump search warrant application, there are 3 statutes that the Department of Justice said they were investigating violations of. One has to do with concealing documents from the government in an ongoing investigation. Certainly, we're not there with President Biden yet. But
not yet.
The other 2.
Not yet. If they asked for those documents back and he didn't return them, there's that checkbox.
Have to do with unlawfully retaining or delivering documents, whether they be documents that affect the national defense in the Espionage Act's case, or just simply holding on to government records.
Simple
Those
possession.
both require willfulness. That's a level of intent that we're not seeing so far in the Biden case. And
they were in his office. It's the same level of intent that they're ascribing to Trump. Okay, except that Trump, right, was making some claims for these documents, and he's entitled to do that. So the willfulness there, yeah, it's like Trump was willfully in possession of them. He acknowledged he had some of these documents, I think all of them, and he made legal claims for them. So the willfulness is sort of presumed and explained, right, which is very different than Joe Biden's possession in a closet in his office. We have to know whether he confirmed that he transferred everything back, and we don't know that yet.
that's a distinction with difference, Katie.
So
it's not any different. So she knows that. But all right. So that's MSNBC. Now they're having bad news all over the place. They're trying to explain this away, and they just can't do it. This guy is over on CNN, and I caught a very interesting clip. He's not going to be invited back, unfortunately for him. He tells the truth, and they don't like it. So this woman here next to Anderson Cooper, you can watch her reaction as this dude here in the middle speaks. They ask him, now that Biden has been found with classified documents, how does this implicate Trump? How does that impact that prosecution?
Here, but the political usefulness of this cannot be underscored, cannot be overstated enough. I mean, to give Republicans this talking point for the rest of their natural lives almost exonerates Trump, and, you know, in terms of debates and what comes up. I mean, if this ever comes up and somebody brings it up, you're always going to have this retort.
That's right.
There's a lot of, by the way,
you better believe it.
Politics is laughing their rear end off tonight that this happened to Joe Biden.
It's true. Given
how strident his commentary was in attacking Donald Trump about this in the first place. So yeah, it's a big deal politically.
Scott, it is a big deal politically. They don't like that answer. I mean, yeah, he's exactly right. We've been laughing about this on our members only stream this morning. I was saying, you know, yeah, I mean, what else can you do other than just do cartwheels when this happens? If you're Trump, if you're the Republicans, this was the biggest issue. I mean, this was what's going to eliminate Trump. This was special counsel. This is the newly appointed international criminal court prosecutor. This has been the thing that they've been salivating over for, I don't know, 6 years, 7 years. They have all wanted Trump gone. They've impeached him twice. They've opened up their own special counsels before. They want him done. And this was going to be it, finally, right? He's not in office anymore. He doesn't have the federal government backing him up. He's extremely weak, according to them. And then, just when the walls are closing in around the former president, we wake up and Joe Biden did the exact same thing. You're kidding me. So I guess it's not that bad. It really is kind of an overdue library book thing. Is that what you're saying to us? So everybody is laughing. They are mocking this double standard, rightfully so. But as he explains this, watch her face. She can't help herself. She does a little eye twitch over there, the little facial twitch, and then catches herself. And in this woman also, too, the eyes get a little bit bigger after the exoneration comment. CNN doesn't like it.
Political usefulness of this cannot be underscored, cannot be overstated enough. I mean, to give Republicans this talking point for the rest of their natural lives almost exonerates Trump, and in terms of debates and what comes up. I mean, if this ever comes up and somebody brings it up, you're always going to have this retort. So there's a lot of, by the way, everybody in politics is laughing their rear end off tonight that this happened to Joe Biden.
Yes.
Given how strident his commentary was in attacking Donald Trump about this in the first place. So yeah, it's a big deal politically.
Scott, I haven't seen you quite so chipper in quite a while.
Oh, I'm
hilarious.
I'm perfectly happy for the Justice Department to investigate this and get to the bottom of both cases. I think classified material ought to be taken care of. And I think people who've been all over Donald Trump about this ought to have the wherewithal to be all over Joe Biden about it, too.
Yeah,
One thing Scott is talking about. Go ahead, Audie.
I was going to say one thing to keep in mind, though, is the former president is in trouble for claiming that he turned in documents that he did not, ignoring subpoenas.
Did Joe Biden do that? Did he say that he turned those documents in, or why was he in possession of those?
Some of his lawyers are accused of saying that they signed off on certifying that they had documents that they
we want to know if Joe Biden's lawyers did that too.
Didn't, or had documents and it turned out there were more documents. So some of this is about how you react to something. Do you react with...
Wait a minute. Is that a crime? How you react to something? So if it's a crime to be in possession of the documents, but you're really nice about it and you're very cooperative, that makes it okay? I mean, was that the standard? Was that the standard that they were referencing and citing under the law? I don't think so.
Obstruction, do you react by stiff-arming federal agencies?
That's your right to do that. You don't have to cooperate with the federal government in any way, shape, or form.
That's something that I think has to be...
Especially when you're under investigation by the loser DOJ going after a former president. You think Trump should just turn around and say, hey, let's play patty cake with you guys who have been openly investigating him and trying to basically wreck his presidency, wreck his personal life. They're sending Alan Weisselberg to prison or to jail. CFO of Trump Organization for tax embezzlement and stuff out of New York. It's nuts. They're raiding his personal residence, and then they want Trump to turn around and say, I'll just play nice with the DOJ, the same people that Michael Sussman was colluding with Jim Baker back in 2016, the same people who were censoring information on Twitter through the Twitter files, all to oppose Donald Trump. Suddenly she's like, well, he wasn't cooperating with the Justice Department. No kidding.
Be a part of this conversation because it's not just about where are random boxes.
But Dana, to Scott's point, in a debate, those details are easy to brush over, and the headline is it's the same thing. Look, this guy did it
is the
too.
Same thing.
They are easy to brush over, and that's where I go back to the potential pitfall for Joe Biden if you're explaining you're losing. However, it really doesn't, and we'll see where this goes.
We will.
And we'll see where the Mar-a-Lago investigation goes. Now both are before the Department of Justice. It is very, very different. And
it's not different, whoever that person is. All right. So you can see she's very unhappy with that exoneration. She was probably one of the hyperventilators out there who just said this was the end of America. Trump's finally coming down. Many of these people live on Twitter all the time. In fact, they sound a lot like these people on The View. We're going to listen to this one next. The View, very, very intelligent bunch of ladies over there. They're going to give us information on this debacle. From The View, weighing in on Joe Biden's theft of classified information, Joy Bayer tells us why Joe Biden is innocent and Donald Trump is guilty.
Really, I think that what you just said is right, that there are differences in what happened.
Yes, but the optics are not good.
Well, we all know that Trump is a liar and a thief.
What?
You know? We know that. So it's not that big a jump to say that he obstructed and he lied. We don't think that Biden is a liar and a thief, so we give him the benefit of the doubt.
So you just presume because you don't like somebody, you can just prosecute them because that's how justice exists in Joy Bayer's world. All of your enemies are bad people. Nobody's innocent until proven guilty. Equal protection, due process of the law doesn't matter. Prosecutions and their eventual consequences, the literal weaponization of the federal government against political adversaries in this country is communist nonsense. But she's okay with it as long as it is somebody that she trusts. We can give them the benefit of the doubt.
It's partly what's going on. But what I think also is going on, no matter what the truth of it is, Whoopi, they will spin it, Bubblehead and Marjorie Taylor and that crowd, Matt Gaetz. You think they're not going to spin this, that it's just as bad as Trump? And so the lie gets...
It is. It's technically it is, right? I mean, it's the same legal consequences. Like, it's the same law, right? And you apply the facts to the law.
It's out there. People believe it, just like that Donaldson person, whatever his name is.
Byron.
What's his name?
Byron. We just listened
Donalds.
to.
I saw him also.
She can't remember his name? Why? That's very racist. She can't remember his name. Very convenient.
Oh, he was at the fight on the floor, too, wasn't he?
He was nominated
Yeah.
for speaker at number
You
one.
know who he is, Joy.
He's the new darling.
Of the 15 rounds.
But I mean, what I'm
darling
just
of the
saying is that the
Republican Party.
lying has been so invasive, so ubiquitous,
Yeah, the
that
lies.
no one will believe the truth anymore. And that you can put that at the feet of Donald Trump, who started the lying. So
Wow. Wow, what a weird show that
Really,
is.
I-
People watch that every day? Okay, so weird show. Probably not going to clip from them again for probably a couple years again. But that, my friends, is the Democrat, the media reaction. There's a whole bunch of cope going on out there. They're very upset about this. And this guy's not going back on CNN probably. We'll see. Good luck to him because he is exactly right. This entire narrative, these hyperventilators who've been screaming and screeching that Trump is finally going to get his day, they're all having to come to terms with reality that their loved president is responsible for the same conduct. And in fact, the conduct might be even more egregious because he was the vice president. And the National Archives evidently didn't even know about the documents until it was discovered by his own lawyers. So where did the documents come from? How did they get there? What was Joe Biden's involvement? Who signed off on any chain of custody documents promising the return? And yes, prosecution must come. If they're going to be prosecuting Trump with special counsel, Joe Biden should get the same treatment. We'll continue to cover. Thank you for subscribing and following along, liking this video wherever it is you're watching it. And we'll look forward to seeing you on the next one. All right, my friends, that is it for us on the day. Whew, we covered a lot of ground. And that was a fun one. Some good stories. We heard all about the background on the documents. We learned that Joe Biden is a total hypocrite. He knew he was in possession of those documents. I mean, to be fair, he does have dementia probably. So it's very, it is actually, you know, he has a very unique defense that Donald Trump doesn't have in that Trump is cognizant. Trump has a functional frontal cortex, whereas our president does not. So that's a pretty useful defense. And of course, we'll continue to cover it. Joe Biden will have some explaining to do. We'll see what Karine Jean-Pierre says about it this week. The Republicans will be out in full force, and we'll see what they do. And then we'll pick up with the Democrats and see what the Democrats have to say about it. But now, my friends, we are finished on the program. It's time to hear from you and to see what you have to say about this and more. We're going to check out the Super Chats over from YouTube. And we'll see if there are any super chats that came in. I just saw one came in from Eddie Oliver. Eddie Oliver's in the house. He says the following. First one in the house came from Devin Knox. Devin Knox is in the house. He says, I also want to know what the documents were specifically. We will see, right? We were thinking that these were maybe Ukrainian documents or something. Intelligence briefings. Do they have anything to do with Hunter Biden? Where'd they come from? I don't know. Jonah Ryan says Penn Biden opened in 2018. Where were they all 2017? Well, I think so. Joe Biden left, right, in January 2017. So they probably, they probably needed to go raise a few million from the Chinese before they could afford that office building. That's probably what they were doing. Good to see you, Jonah. Eddie Oliver is over here, says, I would like Congress to pass a law that puts all former presidents into forced labor camps when they take documents. And I would like that camp in Texas. That'd be kind of cool. Yeah, you could probably put them in cages too and like have like a tractor sort of parade, and just go visit all of the ex-presidents and Congress people. It should be Congress people too. And then we can just go sort of like visit them and like see how they're acting, and throw them treats, see how they enjoy them. It's good to see you, Eddie. Thank you for the super chat and for chiming in over here today. Of course, we also have our friends on YouTube. Activism of Care says, yeah, there's plenty of room for that, Eddie, in Texas. American Dreamer is in the house. Lean is talking about marriage. Oof. We got Just Cause. Isle Payne says, yeah, it'd be kind of like a zoo. You can keep them in the zoo over there on the YouTube chat. Good to see everybody over there on YouTube. Let's check out what's going on over on Rumble. Our friends on Rumble say, Clope Easy says, hola, Rob. What's up, Clope Easy? Dog Digger's over there. Jacob Castro is referencing the Saul Alinsky rules for radicals, says, accuse your opponent of what you're doing, create confusion, and to inculcate voters against evidence of your own guilt. Very good stuff there. Someone says, give me my popcorn. We have MNL Hayes, Blue Bunnies over there, Jacob Castro's, Geomancy's over there. Shout out to Geomancy Games. Sedona Rocks, Parumbulator, and many others are chatting away. And so shout out to our Rumble friends. Let's also go check out what Twitter is up to before we roll out of here, because we are simulcasting on Twitter. And sometimes we actually get more than 2 viewers on our profile over there, which is just really, really cool and fun. Let's see what we've got. Holy moly, we're up to 5. A total of 5 viewers. Let's see what some of the comments are in the house from @RobGovea on Twitter. Andy P says, would you rather let Joe Biden sniff your hair daily, oh gosh, for the next 5 years, or have him lose in 2024? Oh gosh, this is a really tough question. Gosh. All right, well, look. He says, if you let Joe Biden sniff your hair for 5 years every day, he's guaranteed to lose. Would you do that? Oh, gosh. I don't know. For this country, I think I'd do that, Andy, from Oro Valley. I think I'd have to do that. Now, I probably need to hit myself with a pressure cooker. No, a pressure washer or a pressure cooker, either one. A pressure cooker right in the head, to get rid of the memory. But America needs patriots. And if I have to let Joe Biden sniff my hair to win America back, damn it, we'll have to do it here. I think you do it too, Andy. All right, let's see what else we have. We have Paul Mino. He says, good job today. No comment other than keep your chin up, way up. We'll see about that, Paulie. So Paul Minot and I were having a rumble in the jungle. We're going to, brawl up it one of these days. Shout out to Paul. Thanks for being here, Paul. Paul's responsible. If you're not familiar with Paul, if you're not following @SleepyDogLee on Twitter, you should be, because he's got some of the spiciest memes. And yesterday, I saw Paul Minot replying to Pencil Neck Watermelon Head Adam Schiff with a meme of a pencil neck watermelon head. That's the type of content you want to see and follow. I do. It's what we do here. Make fun of these idiots. All right. Danny McWilliams says, this was a fun one. It was a fun one, Danny. Can't wait to hear Tucker tonight on this. Tucker is going to be on a roll, I'm sure. Some crazy idiot says, oh, how fortunate. Don't think they'll be enjoying that. The new standard. And there were some other ones. Robert Lee Beers is here. Says the Presidential Records Act is not retroactive, as VP Biden had no authority to take any classified material. He, not Trump, violated the law. I think that's very astute. Very astute observation there, Robert Lee Beers. And of course, a couple others. Joy Reaper. These two were censored under the fold, just so you guys know. Joy Reaper says, vice presidents don't even have the power to take and declassify. Presidents do. So how is it that Joe Biden took the liberty to steal top secret documents when he was only VP? And Danny says, is Biden that much of a fool? Good comments over there. Yeah, and I think you're right about that. How did he get the documents? That's something that the Republicans are going to want to dive into. We know that we know how Trump got the documents, but how did Biden get the documents? We'll have to see. But all right, that is it, my friends, for us on the day. We are going over to our watchingthewatchers.locals.com community to chat over there for our after party. We have after parties after the show. We also do member-only streams. And so you can see the amazing community is just percolating over there. We've got Dana's in the house, June M's in the house. We see Bonnie Specs over there, C. Reed's over there, along with Cool Guy and others. And so we're going to go chat and go through some comments over there in a short, quick minute. But before we wrap it up on the day, I want to thank all the sponsors of the program who support our work. Of course, our friends at watchingthewatchers.locals.com, where we do member-only streams. Come check us out. Also, don't forget to get your survival food and your survival gear at 4patriots.com. Go to 4patriots.com, use code Robert, save 10% off anything in the store on your first order. Great company. Also, check out our friends at Goldco. And if you got retirement and you're tired of your dollars evaporating, think about gold and silver. Go to Robert Likes Gold, protect your savings, get a nice chunk back in silver or in whatever they're offering. Get your kit, see what they have to offer for you at robertlikesgold.com. Of course, our law firm. I know many of you are not from Arizona or visit Arizona, but we are a law firm in Arizona. We're dedicated to helping good people charged with crimes find safety, clarity, and hope, not only in their cases, but beyond that, in their lives. We help good people from all over the world who travel to Arizona, get in a little bit of trouble. We offer free case evaluations, 480-787-0394, online at rrlawaz.com. And holy moly, we had Red One is in the house. Red One this is the second time Red One, I think this is actually the fourth time, to be perfectly fair, that Red One has gifted 5 memberships to our community, which is just awesome. So shout out to Red One over there on YouTube, which means that a bunch of people are now going to be members. And so they'll get the same things that the members on Locals get, right? If you're a member on YouTube, you get the same live streams. We multi-stream, just like we're doing here. We multi-stream it on Locals and on YouTube. And so if you want to become a member, well, there's a bunch more of you now. Thank you to our very generous friend, Red One. What a heck of a guy or gal. Thank you very much, Red One, for helping our community grow. We do appreciate you. And also, thank you to the mods who mod down the forts for us, the fort for us. I think we missed you guys yesterday, but big shout outs to Vienticus Prime, our friend K Bean. I see Just Cause is in the house. I see Leans over there. I say playing hookies in the house too. Along with Ronnie Cole, Zulu, Geomancy Games was over on Rumble, and Henry comes by from time to time. And we're very grateful for the mods who mod down the fort for us so that things stay nice and orderly. But that, my friends, is it for us on the day. We are going over to watchingthewatchers.locals.com for a little bit of a chat, and I hope to see you there. Otherwise, I'll see you right back here tomorrow so that together with your help, we can shine that big, beautiful spotlight of accountability and transparency down upon our system with the hope of finding justice. Have a tremendous evening, my friends. Locals, I'll see you in 30 seconds. Everybody else, see you right back here tomorrow. Bye-bye.